Hey everybody, how's everybody doing today? Welcome to my Tuesday live stream where we talk about photography and catch up on what's new and what's going on. It's been a busy week for me, more or less. It's like the more you do, the less you get done, kind of thing. So I didn't accomplish much, but I've been busy. I hope everybody can see and hear me okay. I worked really hard yesterday to try to get the audio correct on here. So please chime in if there's any audio issues. Particularly, I tried to get the syncing correct as well, so I'm not having this like lip syncing problem that I hadn't really noticed until recently. So I don't know if it's a new development or if there's been something, if it's been happening for a long time since I switched over to this app, less than a year ago, earlier this year, I guess. But gosh, I can't believe it's December and 2021 is already over. And it's been quite the year. Nothing's really nothing's really changed either. Uh, where I live here, generally in the area, and with me personally, or anything on my channel, things have been moving along. Just as usual. I wish I was really expecting much. I don't know. I mean, I really shouldn't do a retrospective already, right? Because it's not the last stream of the year. Um, but it just feels like my photography is stagnated a little bit. Where the pictures I'm taking now really aren't any better than they were when the beginning of the year started. I haven't picked up any new techniques or improved any particular skill set. Um, so I'm like in this pattern of just leveling off before you take a next leap. So I'm trying to think of ways that for next year I can take my photography to another level. And I just don't know where that's going to be. I mean, I've experimented in a couple of things, but I've been doing that since I started, and I've only been shooting for since 2013, really, with any seriousness. Now I have, yeah, tons of photos from my college days and on and off throughout uh, up to 2013, but nothing really. And so I don't know. I don't know. I've been feeling like I've been stagnating a little bit. Uh, I don't know if you guys get that same feeling sometimes, but I did a photo walk, couple of photo walks, and one with David Crooks this past weekend at Green Springs Gardens, and uh, and then I did one in Alexandria. I haven't been to Alexandria in a couple of years, really, at least a year, but probably closer to 2 years since I've done a photo walk or anything in Alexandria, Old Town Alexandria, I should say. And I posted the images on Flickr and Instagram, so I'm sure many of you have already seen them. And I was shooting with the Nikon Df. If you guys recall, Randy and I swapped cameras, and they finally I got mine last week. Let me pull it out. Uh, Plato's been stagnating. You've been stagnating for 10 years. Um, so yeah, I went out with this beast here, and I still have a lot of my AFD glass. I have a 35, a 50, a 60, 100 millimeter macro. I sold off all my AFS lenses, the with the electronic motors. So these are all mechanical film error type lenses. They work great on this camera. And let me tell you, it took a little getting used to um, shooting with a DSLR again, because I've been shooting Olympus almost exclusively for the last 5 years, maybe six now, right? Going on 6 years with Olympus, 5 years with my channel, actually. Uh, I mean, I shoot film time to time, but that's different than shooting digital DSLR, right? Hence the D in the DSLR. And it's funny how you just start to take things for granted that, a modern digital camera will give you, like IBIS and better autofocus, the EVF, instead of an optical OVF viewfinder, and the various features and controls that you can use on a modern camera versus the older cameras. There's a lot of things on the camera it has that, uh, it gives you everything you need to do, really, to take a picture, right? I mean, ultimately, all you need is shutter speed, aperture, ISO, right? And, it's been it's very nostalgic, hearing that shutter clack. You guys should hear this thing. It's like, let me see if I can fire off one. It'll focus on, take the lens cap, rookie mistake. Yeah, that's a sound that I just haven't heard, since I got this camera, really. The film cameras, they have a clank sound, but this is a pretty well dampened shutter, but it's still got some click to it. But yeah, so with the IBIS, I've had to, with the lack of IBIS, with these AFD lenses, these older lenses, I've had to go back to the old rule of, double your shutter speed, right? So I'm shooting at 35 millimeter. I have to have a shutter speed of 1/70th. Because I noticed, I practiced a lot last week, just around the house and stuff. And all the images were like just had a slight bit of motion blur. They weren't tack sharp, which, I attribute to the motion blur. So I just can't hand hold a camera worth a damn anymore without IBIS. So I had to go double the shutter speed, and that seemed to resolve that issue I was having. And then, I when I go out and I shoot, I normally shoot with a lot of whatchamacallit. I shoot with a lot of exposure compensation, right? I'm an aperture priority, then I dial in plus or minus all day long. And with an EVF or the live view, it's pretty easy to make adjustments to get the exposure that I want, but you don't really have that with this, right? Normally you're always looking through the optical viewfinder. So I had to chimp a lot. Like I would take the picture, then play it back and say, "Oh, okay, I need to adjust a little bit." So it slowed me down a lot in that respect. And then finally was the using an OVF, right? I felt like I was gonna burn my retinas out because I was trying to do some starburst shots and things, and you have to sometimes line up the sun between a crack or a corner to get that, to amplify the starburst effect. And I'm like, God, I wonder if I'm like burning my retina out because you're basically focusing a magnifying glass of the sun right onto your eye when you're using an optical viewfinder. So I was like, I would just quickly do this and then kind of look away and try and look off off axis into the viewfinder to try to frame the shot because I didn't want to burn my retinas out. I guess I could have switched to live view, which this has a live view, right? You can click and do that, but uh, so there was a lot of things I had to adjust that I just took for granted when I was shooting with Olympus. Now, the image files and everything, I watched, God, I must have watched about 20 videos on the Nikon Df, last week, just seeing what everybody was doing with it, what their thoughts were, and I forgot that this camera was very controversial when it came out. There was a lot of criticism about, not having video, not having dual card slots, the small battery, and and then what was it? Kai was just saying, wow, they spent 4 years to add four buttons or dials on it, and as far as looks go, I just love how it looks. When this came out, because I had the Nikon D7100 at the time. When this came out, I wanted this camera so bad. But it was like, $2,800 or something at the time. And now I'm so happy I have it now. It's really been on my bucket list of cameras to own. And I'm just thrilled with the quality of the images and the results, and it just goes to show you it's 8 years old. I was just shocked. When I was looking at the videos, a lot of them were 8 years old, and, I was just surprised it's been that long since that came out. Because my D750, which I traded, I guess came out in 2014 or 15, something like that. It's 2, 3 years newer camera, and it's superior in every way to this camera, right? Except that it's just a DSLR, right? Um, spec-wise, it's superior in every way. But to me, this was one of the cameras that I just thought was, I like how it looks, how it handles. I love the fact that it has like that D4 sensor in it, right? And that's the only redeeming quality a lot of the reviewers gave this camera at the time was it has the D4 sensor, but then it has that D600 autofocusing system, which I found to be fine. I mean, it's all grouped into the center, but um, you know, I I think it takes amazing shots and the ability to, I did a lot of straight out of camera stuff, but I did push and pull some of the raw files, and yeah, it has plenty of dynamic range and, uh, and the colors are beautiful, but that's Nikon, right? Nikon has a little bit warmer tone to their images than Olympus. Olympus is a little bit more cleaner, more accurate. This camera is as well as most Nikons. I don't know about the Z series, but all of the D series, F mount stuff, they all had sort of a warmer color to it that their own color signs, which I've always really liked, personally. And that translates even into the black and white conversion. Somehow the color is just a little bit different, but when you do the black and white conversion, you get slightly different tones as well. So I thought it was I thought the images were beautiful, and I shot an image. If you look at my Flickr page, I shot an image at whatchamacallit, ISO 14,000 something, and I ran it through DxO Deep Prime, right? And it just looks like an ISO 100 image. I mean, it's so clean and so sharp. It's just amazing. Something that you can't do with Micro Four Thirds. You can get there if you're shooting low ISO, but if I was shooting 14,000 something on my OMD, yeah, I'm not gonna retain as many details as I did on this. Um, just for the simple fact it's full frame, huge pixels, all of that good stuff, right? It was kind of known for its low light capability. I haven't compared it directly against my Panasonic S5, but maybe I'll do that. I don't know. It's not that important to me, the dynamic range and all of these metrics that people like to compare cameras with. What's important to me is it can I get the image that I want from the camera and without having to push and pull and do a ton of post processing. And I'm always like on the photo walks and things I do at the photo club, I'm almost always the first one to post images to the group, right? In our photo club group, because I just do a little crop sometimes and that's it. I'm done. And I post the image, the post processing side, I try to minimize that as much as I can. And that's why I like DxO because I set up a preset to reduce the noise and sharpen the images automatically. And then all I have to do is just sometimes adjust uh, the framing, the crop, or highlights and shadows a tiny bit. Maybe I want more of the sky to show, but um, yeah. So those are my basic thoughts on this DF. is, it takes, beautiful pictures like it was designed to do. And I'm gonna enjoy this for many years to come. So I really appreciate being able to trade this with you, Randy, because the D750, like I said, is superior in every way and took just as beautiful images as this, but just the design that went into this, with the dials and buttons, a little bit nostalgic. It inspires me a little more to take this out than the D750 ever did. The D750 was like a workhorse camera. Um, and this is more of a camera just to go out and enjoy. Uh but yeah, oh hey Walter. Walter's here. How you doing? uh and David and Steven and Lauren and Jeff and John. I haven't said hi to everybody. How's everybody doing? Um, oh, Rick is here. And yeah, yeah, most of the times, yeah, I just crop the JPEG sometimes because my tendency is to try to shoot a little bit wider than I need. And that's the other thing I forgot to mention is, I'm so used to the level meters. You know how I am about getting lines straight and things like that, man. I'm so used to level meters on the live viewer and the EVF that a lot of my pictures were crooked with this. So I have to be very, very conscious. And the other thing is this camera, it's always a two-handed operation. You can't just walk around and click, click, click. You got to hold the camera properly with your left hand and just use this hand to control whatever you need to control, right? Uh, which is fine. Most of the time, I'm just aperture priority, and I take the picture, right? I did bracket a little bit. One of my shots, my starburst shot, I bracketed, but I found that I didn't even really need to bracket because there's so much dynamic range on this sensor that I could have just used a regular exposure and push and pull the highlights and shadows to get the image I want. Marcia's, oh yeah, let me pay attention to the chat here. Uh, the image behind me, where is, oh, this is Conowingo Dam. Um, let me see. Let me let me arrange my windows the way I normally do. I'm such a creature of habit. Okay, that's that. Uh, let's see, we'll go to Flickr. Here, okay, let me show you one image. This image here of Ellie was at 14,367 ISO, but man, when I punch in, I mean, the detail and DxO processing, right? But there's just no noise at all. And all of the details are still there. It's pretty amazing. And the lens I use the most, in this case, I used the 35 f2, which is a fabulous lens, but the 60 millimeter 2.8 macro lens from Nikon. That lens is really sharp, really, really sharp. And that's what I used a lot on the photo walk in Alexandria. Like this one was actually the 200. This was the 60. No, oh, this was the 200 millimeter f4. This is a vintage lens. I had to manually focus of 200 millimeter AI. This was the 60 macro. This was the 60 millimeter macro. But yeah, this is pretty amazing, right? Let me see, what's another one? These are all DF images. What did I use here? This was the 200 millimeter f4. So it was nice to natively use f-mount glass again on an f-mount camera. These were all my Olympus shots. Like stuff like this. This was my EM1 Mark III. You know, tack sharp with the 12 to 40 Pro, and then look at the shutter speed, 1/8 of a second. You know, um, at a 70 millimeter equivalent. I could never do this with this DF. A shot like this. This is the kind of thing. This is where I think cameras have really improved a lot. Are in the at least with Olympus. The IBIS is just freaking amazing. To be able to hand hold and get an image at night at 1/8 of a second this sharp. And what was my ISO? ISO 1600, right? And no noise. That's because of DxO mostly. But no motion blur, nothing. Uh, and the lines are straight. This was a single shot, actually. I was just hand holding and I zoomed while I was uh, taking the picture. So what do you call that? A rack or zoom pull or something? Um, just handheld, and it was still. That's David Crooks, by the way. These are every shot I took here at the light show was handheld. Uh, with no issues. I like this shot here because it's the reminds me of Stargate. I don't know if any of you guys watch Stargate, but I thought that was the Christmas Stargate. And this is kind of a cool shot. This light was just the way it was shining down on the ground. Um, but yeah, my Olympus, double exposures are a piece of cake using an Olympus camera, something like that, where you can do all kinds of stuff. But yeah, the Nikon Df, man, it's like this was a shot I used. I took it with flash. I think this is straight out of camera too, pretty much. 1/125th of a second. So yeah, I was definitely very, very conscious of my shutter speed with every shot because the first few days I was using the camera, man, I was getting blurry pictures left and right. Oh, thank you, George. Wow. Very generous of you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Um, let me go back to that's awesome. Thank you so much. And I did see Randy got my D750, and he's been taking some amazing shots too. Um, let me show you one. It's this green house I remember. It was just right here. I was looking at him yesterday. Um, hold on. Yeah. Uh, yeah, these are with the D750. This was my old camera. Now Randy has it. And this was yeah, there's no exif data, so I don't know what camera and lens you use, but it looks like a 35 to me. These look like 35 millimeter. This may be a little tighter. That's probably a 35. I've kind of lost my sense of focal length when we go back to full frame because I'm so used to micro four thirds. Because it's frame 4:3, and the focal lengths are all doubled or halved, whatever. And he's been doing some new processing. These are much richer in color than he's done in the past. Because if you look at his photo stream, if you go down here, you know, lots of black and whites. And this is when somehow you transition to these very rich, strong colors. But you didn't always do that. You were more like this. This is more like what I'm used to seeing from you, something like this, right? But anyhow, um, it's definitely having a lot of fun, I think, to both of us with our new cameras. Um, oh, you're gonna lose power tomorrow, Randy? Yeah. Clear out some brush. Let's see. John says, just got back from snorkeling in the Bahamas. Nice. With the TG6, steal from the Ollie store. Got me some. Yeah, got you out of stagnation. Yeah. Um, I shot with the TG5. I have a TG5 a couple of weeks ago. That was pretty fun. I got those images on Flickr. But for those of you that um, you know, Flickr is really the best way to share images with everyone. Uh, you know, Instagram is fine. It's very social, and you got a much bigger following there. Or you can generate a much bigger following. My God, I got 2,000 some people following me, which is, and I only got like 300 on Flickr, right? But I much prefer, and I put a lot more pictures on Flickr than I ever do on Instagram. Because with Flickr, I can just straight upload them in bulk, right? A whole set. Instead of, you know, Instagram, you're doing them one at a time, which is, and then you got to type in the description and the EXIF data. And with my with Flickr, I don't have to do anything, right? Like these straight out of camera images, you know, all the EXIF data is right here. The only thing I note sometimes is when I'll make a note that it is a straight out of camera image, or if I did any editing. And most of the time it's straight out of camera. Sometimes there's a tiny bit of editing, very, very mild. I can't, like, these are all straight out of camera, all of these images. This one, obviously, I did some editing. I don't know why it's not coming up. Sometimes my mouse loses its mojo. But yeah, I just did a warm tone, like a sepia tone to this image. But other than that, it's straight out of camera. And I like this image because the chair is slightly, and this was when I went to breakfast with David and Walter. I like how the chair is slightly ajar, uh, almost like inviting you to come and sit down. And then just the people in the background, just going about their breakfast. And I don't know, this is very small town like America. Like you can go to any small town and you'll see a scene like this. Uh, and the prices were downright reasonable. Oh my goodness. Uh, I just couldn't believe this. It's like, which one did I get? I got the Hungry Man, I think. 7.99, two hot cakes, bacon, sausage, and eggs. 7.99. And then let me see. Uh, I went to another place recently. This one here. I mean, $15, $14. Where's like a basic two eggs with hash brown and toast, 7.50, but it's like double the price here, you know, for this basically the same thing. Uh okay. What's this? Barry says, I've been offered an EM10 Mark III body for less than 300 pounds by my dealer to replace my broken. Have to consider. What do you think? I would I would say you're probably. I mean, I don't know how you used your EM10 Mark II, but I prefer the EM10 Mark II over the EM10 Mark III. Now, if you want to step up to the EM10 Mark IV or the EM5 Mark III, it's on sale now, like $10.99, including a 14 to 150. If you can, I'd step up to an EM5 Mark III, and I would skip the EM10 Mark III, even the EM10 Mark IV. I would skip those two. I would try to stick with the EM10 Mark II. I just like the EM10 Mark II better. Uh, the build quality, it's all metal, right? The newer ones are plastic, and that's not a big deal, but I just prefer the metal build of the EM10 Mark II. Uh, and you're not sacrificing any image quality or capabilities with the EM10 Mark II versus the Mark II and Mark III. The only thing the Mark IV has over the Mark II is the screen that flips down and 20 megapixel sensor and maybe a little better autofocusing. But the EM10 Mark II has everything and more. Just off the top of my head, like silent shutter, you can access in any mode. Um, My sets or custom modes. They call them my sets in the M10. You have direct access to the my sets. There's no my sets or custom modes on the Mark III, and I'm pretty sure not on the Mark IV either, but I'm not positive. Uh, so my advice would be if you can find an EM10 Mark II, and you should be able to find one cheaper than 300 pounds. I would get another EM10 Mark II over the Mark III. Just skip the Mark III and the Mark IV for that matter, really, unless you like the flip down screen. That would be a distinct advantage. That would be worth missing out on custom features. If you would use the flip down screen more than you would custom features. But yeah, I like the M10 Mark II better in every way. And like I said, you should be able to find it for well under 300 pounds, maybe 200 pounds, for one in really good condition. And Andrew, I watched Andrew's talking about the 20 millimeter f1.4 from OM Systems. I watched Jimmy Chang's review, Red 35. Did you know there's another Jimmy Chang on YouTube? I think his channel is called Jimmy Chang, but it's not the same as Jimmy Chang on Red 35. But anyhow, I watched it this morning, and yeah, it's no question, it's a terrific lens. Very sharp, very smooth bokeh, um, lightweight, weather sealed. If you need the weather sealing, I think, yeah, definitely get a lens like that. Get that lens. I think it's what, $7.99, so it's not crazy expensive, but it's a little up there, right? Um, I think about the lenses I have now, the 17 f1.8, the 25 f1.8. I I don't see a 20 f1.4 replacing either of those lenses. It occurred to me that I might be able to replace both those lenses and get the 20 and be better off. But I like the width. Like I said, I always like to shoot a little bit wider, so I don't think I could give up my 17 if I got the 20. And I'm not worried about weather sealing. So uh what does the 20 millimeter f1.4 really offer? A third of a stop or two-thirds of a stop more light? It's just that's and maybe a sharper image wide open. Like you could probably shoot at f2 and it's tack sharp all the time, whereas the 17 and the 25, you have to stop down to about 2.8 or f4 to really get it sharp. You know, at f4, both those lenses are tack sharp, but at wide open at f1.8, they're a little bit soft. They're not super, super sharp. Um, I don't know. It's a little bit too pricey for me to get a little bit more sharpness, right? I'm pretty content with the 17 and the 25. And the 25 I hardly use. I'm thinking about selling it. Thinking about selling my 25 and my 12 because I just don't use those. 12 is a little bit too wide most of the time, and 25 is too tight. um, but right now, a lens actually I am thinking about getting is the 30 millimeter macro from Olympus. It's on sale now for $229 for a brand new one. And that's a lens that's a little bit tighter than a normal, 25 millimeter. But it gives it gives me the advantage to be able to get up close to things. Because I was shooting with the 60 millimeter macro on the DF most of the time. I'm pretty comfortable with that focal length. Uh, and the fact that I can get, this close to a subject, and get really close to a flower or an insect, just adds a little bit more versatility than, say, a standard 25 millimeter lens. So I'm debating, and 229 is not bad. And the lens is sharp. It's a macro lens, so it's gonna be sharp. Uh, Not because it's a macro lens, but it is a very sharp lens by all accounts. The only thing is, I think it's an f3.5. It might be a little bit slow. It's definitely slower. It's about a stop and a third, or almost 2 stops slower than the 25 1.8. So that would be the only downside. But it's tough, right? I mean, how many lenses do I really need? And if I want to get close, I just bring the extension tubes with me, and that gets me close enough, right? That's why I'm having a hard time with I got this like $1,100 credit at the camera store, and I can't think of any lens or accessory that I need right now that I don't already have covered in some other way. They have a 40 to 150 f2.8, but I'm like, well, I got the 40 to 150 kit, $99 plastic fantastic. And that does more than good enough for me. And then they have the 100 to 400, which is $1,500. So I'd have to put in a little bit more money or trade something else in. But I have a 75 to 300, and that's good enough for the little bit of photography I do that needs any reach. So what am I left with? The 30 macro, maybe the 60 macro, but that's a little bit too limiting. That's very tight to be sort of a walk around lens, right? If I was heavy in the macro, like doing macro all the time, yeah, definitely get that lens. When people ask me what macro lens should I get, I always tell them the 60, right? But when you ask me what lens, to get for just general photography, a standard focal length is good. 30 is a little bit tight, but that versatility of being able to get close or take shots far away. So I might get that lens. Just catch up on. I'm going to catch up on the chat here. I have it down here in front of me. Yeah, so I did watch Jimmy's review this morning. And he does, he does a good job, right, Jimmy? Basically the lens at 1.4, tack sharp in the center, loses a little bit in the corners with some vignetting. Minor sharpness loss, minor vignetting, wide open. for all intents and purposes, it's tack sharp, wide open. Stop it down to f2, and the lens is like 99%, and at f2.8, it's 100%, like as sharp as it's going to get. And he also thought the focusing speed was very, very fast. That about sums it up. You know, no chromatic aberration, very smooth bokeh. So like it's a fabulous lens with the weather sealing. So if you need the weather sealing, you can definitely replace the 17 and the 25 with that one lens. Uh, I don't see any need to get the pro versions of the 17 and 25, and I don't see any reason to get the regular 17 millimeter and 25 millimeter. If you get the 20 millimeter f1.4, that lens pretty much knocks all of those lenses off the table in terms of versatility, weather sealing, sharpness, brightness, everything, right? Um, but if you're like me and already have a 17 and a 25, is it worth spending $800 to get that lens? That's a harder question to answer, right? But I think if you were buying it as your first lens in that focal range between 17 and 25, to me, it's kind of a no-brainer. You should just get that lens. And I think that's where Andrew is at, right? Because you're building up a brand new system. That to me is a no-brainer. Because a 17 and a 25, if you buy the pro versions, cost more than that. And if you buy both lenses on the the general lenses, the 17 and a 25, the two added together cost almost as much as that one lens by itself. So I think it makes a great choice if you don't already have a 17 and a 25. So I was debating trading my 17 and 25 to get that, but I just decided not to. And Robert Welsh is here. Hello from Dursley, UK. Welcome to the stream. And I'm just catching up on some of the chat here. Now, this is interesting. Lauren does a lot of street photography recently, like this past year, right? And he's saying the 25 is not too tight, and most of the time the 745 is okay. I think it has a little bit to do with where you are versus where I am. Because when I do street shooting, I have to go to Alexandria, and it's very tight in Alexandria. There isn't like big open spaces, that I can do a lot of street shooting. I'm going down these narrow roads, and the sidewalks are barely 2, 3 people wide. If you have 3 or more people, you're not going to walk side by side down the sidewalk. It's just too narrow. I can show you actually some of the street shots I did. I went to they had a farmer's market in Alexandria. I was too chicken to do any people shots though, because I had this big honking DF, right? And I'm like, you know what I mean? I got all shy about taking people's picture for some reason, but the farmer's market would have been a great place to do that. There was lots of interesting people. Um, Man, I don't have any good examples here about how it's very tight. I'll just take my word for it. In Alexandria, 25 is a little bit tight. You could get away with 45 if you're taking pictures of people across the street and stuff. But people right in front of you and next to you, I don't know, it's a little bit tight. You're just going to get that person. You're not going to get the environment because let me see. I mean, this is the only picture. This one here. I mean, this is a one-car driveway, and you can see how tight that is. This is on the dock, but it was pretty empty. Yeah, I don't have any good. This is Alexandria as well. But you see the sidewalk here is it's very narrow. Most of the sidewalks are like this narrow, you know? And so if I'm walking on that sidewalk, I could take things across the street with the 45, but it'd be a little bit tight with trying to use a 45 on the same side of the street, so to speak. Um, Anywho, because all the pictures I see you do on your stream or in your, photo albums that you send me, um, yeah, a lot of times you're across the street and there's lots of room. You can capture like the whole scene. I just haven't been able to do that quite the same in Alexandria. Let me let me see. I think is this it? No. I mean, 25 I could probably get away with, even a 30. Like this was taken with this one here, this was taken with the 60mm macro. Um, Let me, from across the street. But you see how narrow everything is? So this is a 30mm equivalent. It's just tight. Where's another one? This is across the street. This one I was using the 35mm. So this is a 17mm equivalent from across the street. These were some macro shots. Oh, there's one street shot. This was the farmer's market. This was interesting. I don't know. I just got too chicken though. I got too chicken to take pictures of people while I was there, so I didn't get many shots. I mean, I got this one of the fruits or what are these squash, whatever this is. This is not bad. And here's another one. There was some squirrels and birds around. And this is when I went out with the Nikon Df. It was tough because I was shooting with manual focus with the 200mm on these. But I seem to nail focus for the most part. Not bad. So my manual focusing skills aren't too shabby. These are all manual focus, 200mm. Yep, nailed it. Here's a street shot. Now this street was closed, so that's why they're able to walk down the middle like this. It's okay. I wish they were walking towards me. I tried to do a couple of street shots. I think there's one of a guy here. It's just boring. I just was like, I didn't think anything of it. The farmer's market would have been a good opportunity. This is on the docks. Bunch of seagulls flying around. But when I nailed focus, man, it was really good. This was the 60 macro. Uh, anyhow, let me go back to the chat section. I need to keep up here. Yeah, the 12 to 60 is definitely a good range. No question. That's basically a 24 to 120, which is a standard full frame equivalent. And you recently got the 8 to 18 on my G9. I'm really happy with how sharp the lens is. I'm saving up for 3 Lumix Leicas. Yeah. Yep, good lenses. And the Panasonic 20 f1.7, that's a nice little pancake lens, and everybody says it's tack sharp. And I think it's less than 300 bucks. You can buy them used for like 200, I think, but it's a little bit too slow to focus. If that's not an issue, and it really isn't, but it's a little bit slow to focus, and it's certainly for video, it's terrible, I hear. But for just normal photography, I think the 20 pancake lens, that's definitely a lens I'm going to get one day. If they had one at the camera store, I might get it, but it's not on sale. I don't want to pay full price, 300 bucks for one. And Randy's saying they're going to launch a 400 millimeter f8 mirror lens. Oh, interesting. I've seen 500 millimeter and up mirror lenses for like 100 bucks. And as a student and apprentice photographer, I only own 4 lenses, getting one each year as combined Christmas birthday gifts. It allowed me to be thoroughly competent. Yeah. I wonder though if the way things are nowadays, with the consumerism type society that we live in, I'd never be able to get away with just buying one lens ever. I got probably 40 or 50 lenses sitting over there. So that means I've bought, several lenses every year for the last 7 or 8 years. Um, I don't know if I could do that. Now Walter does that. Walter, I think, only owns 2 or 3 lenses now. They're all zooms, so he's covered the entire range, but Walter's never owned more than 4 lenses, I think, at a time, maybe 5, but that's, that's pretty limited range, or limited number, I should say. The range he's got covered, but that's a pretty limited number of lenses for a professional photographer, I would think. But maybe not. Maybe a pro photographer. I mean, honestly, for my professional work, I only need one lens, the 7 to 14. That's the only lens I use when I go out. I bring like a 14 to 42, my kit lens sometimes in case I need a little bit tighter. Uh, but that's pretty rare. I bring the kit lens with me on my professional work because sometimes people like to see the details of some of the hardware and things, some special features within a building or property. But that's rare. Usually 7 to 14, I'm good with one lens. But for as a hobby, as a personal thing, it's hard. It would be hard for me to get by with just um if I were starting out again, that just have 1 or 2 lenses to start out when I could just go and buy whatever I want. I don't know if that I don't know if people have that mentality anymore to put that kind of work in to learning a lens thoroughly before buying another one. You know what I mean? I don't know if we just live in that kind of society anymore. Yeah. Steven uses the 17. Yeah, it's a game of patience and a little bit of luck. Yeah. I mean, when I was a couple of years ago when I was doing street photography more often, I was getting braver and braver, uh, taking pictures of people, and it's all about your attitude too. Because I got to the point to where I would just, just smile and wave at a person, take their picture. Uh, but I don't know, I got really shy for some reason this past weekend carrying this big honking, uh, DF with me. It's not really any bigger than any other camera, but it just felt like I was holding up a tank of a camera to take somebody's picture when I went out with this. I don't know why. It's all up here, right in my head. You feel like you got this humongous camera when it's really not, but it just feels like, it's this big and you're like walking around with this giant camera taking pictures of people. You know what kind of set me off a little bit though is I was on a photo job, you know, a month or two ago, and I got the third degree, taking people's picture. Uh, I think I talked about it in one of my streams, but these three women ganged up on me and was giving me the third degree about taking their picture. So maybe subconsciously that's still in my head where I'm just very nervous about taking pictures of people anymore. Um, but yeah, that sticks in my mind. And the irony was I wasn't even taking their picture, but they thought I was. And they ganged up on me and gave me a hard time about taking their picture and yelling at me to keep that camera away from them and blah blah blah. I don't know if you guys ever have that kind of experience, but um man, that was unpleasant, you know. And the only thing I had going for me was I really wasn't taking their picture. They're not in any of my shots from that shoot, but they were pretty rude or pretty upset, I should say. They were very upset about me having a camera in their presence. And the DF images are super clean and sharp. Yeah, it's a combination of uh that the lenses I was using, the 60 macro lens is really sharp, the 35 is really sharp, and having a very low pixel density hides a lot of the imperfections of the lens, right? I mean, it's only 16 megapixel full frame, so any imperfections in the lens don't show up quite as easily on a camera with a very low pixel density, I should say. And then, of course, the low light noise and all of that is cleaned up really nicely with DxO. Uh, so yeah, the images came out really good. Looks like, oh shoot, there was a question here from Brian. What kit lens do you think produces better images, the 14 to 42 or the 12 to 50? Um, I would say the 12 to 50 is a little more versatile because it's wider and longer. Um, but I and but I don't think either one is better than the other outside of the focal length. The 12 to 50 is more versatile. But I don't have the 12 to 50 to be able to say personally if it's any sharper than the 14 to 42. I can tell you that the Panasonic 12 to 32 kit lens is very sharp. That is definitely sharper than the Olympus 14 to 42. And I guarantee it's sharper than the 12 to 50 because that lens is nearly as sharp as my 12 to 40 Pro. So look at that lens, the 12 to 32 kit lens from Panasonic. That is an excellent lens for sharpness. Oh, Gigafish is here. How you doing? um, Only four lenses, and they mean something special to me, connected to music growing up. Really? Huh. And then yeah, Walter's just confirming 24 to 70, 70 to 200, and then a wider 17 to 35. Oh, you don't yeah, you sold those off though. Yeah, Walter doesn't have a lot of lenses. I can find the 20 used for about 150. AF is a little slow and noisy, but yeah, for stills, I think for stills it'd be fine, that camera or that lens. And Music Sound Gear also owns three lenses: the 8 to 18, the 14 to 150, and the 100 to 300. Wow, you guys are amazing. And Lauren says, I hear the 12 to 40 Pro does it. Yeah, it's an amazing lens. That lens is, I mean, I only use it on my EM1 Mark III, but when I take those two out, it's like bread and butter. Those two, that combination, man, let me tell you, this combination, 12 to 40 Pro with the EM1 Mark III, this is this is about as good as photography gets, in my opinion. Wonder if the 12 to 45 f4 is too slow. Not really. It's only one stop. It's not a big deal. Attacked by a group of Karens. They weren't Karens. Uh, oh, John is here. How you doing, John? John Truman. And Flino says I should take my EM53 of GX85 for street. Yeah, well, I was just having fun with the DF that day. Um, oh, Ben is here. How you doing, Ben? Yeah, we're getting accosted by Karens. No, they weren't Karens. They were some angry women though. Yeah, it's funny as folks being photo. Yeah, they freak out. That's the thing is they, because I pointed that out to them. I'm like, there's a camera here. I pointed out all the security cameras around, and I said, you have no problem with that. And they're like, well, we know what those are there for. We don't know you. I'm like, okay, whatever. So I just, like I said, I had maybe subconsciously that's been that affected me when I went to the farmers market. Uh, the thing with street photography, when I was doing it before, I would talk to them for a little bit first, right? How you doing? What do you do? You know what I mean? And then it'd be easy to slip in, hey, can I take your picture? I think you're very interesting or whatever. I would just ask to take their picture. Those kind of shots I get time to time. But just to walk around and take pictures of people I haven't talked to or met, that's where I get really nervous or shy. You know, Ben, the 12-100, I have not heard one bad thing about that lens. Not one. Uh, other than, other than what people prefer. If you want a small light lens, no, it's like 700 or 800 grams. It's pretty heavy. But if you can live with that and you get the dual IBIS action and tack sharp, constant f4, that's like a do-it-all lens right there. Definitely. Oh, looks like Walter left. Time is 11. Oh, a couple of minutes ago. And then it says here, following some great tuition from you, I just watched a great video from Anthony Turnham, black and white photo editing with Lightroom. My process, how to... I'll check it out. I kind of have a workflow. If I really want to edit a black and white, I have a workflow that I do in Photolab. Sometimes I transfer out to Photoshop and do the high pass filter. I think I showed you how to do that one time. The high pass filter really makes it very crispy. If you want a very gritty black and white, using the high pass filter in Photoshop is one of my go-to moves. But like I said, I generally do straight out of camera now. I'm just too lazy. Rob, have a handout for street shooting with the address of your site where you post. Street portraits is okay too. Maybe. I know a lot of street photographers do that. Whenever I see interviews of street photographers, they always have a card with their social media stuff on there, whether it's a website, Instagram, Flickr, whatever. And they hand it out to people and say, just go here, you can get your picture. And Chan says, can't decide 25 or 45, need a prime, all the while using 12 to 40, 40 to 150 street. That's a tough call. Because you're only gaining about a stop of light with either of those primes, maybe a stop and a third, right? I would just flip a coin, to be honest, because you have the range covered with the 12 to 40 and the 40 to 150. And the only thing you're gaining with the primes is a stop and a third of light and small lightweight, something small and lightweight to carry. So in your case, I would lean towards the 25 because I always like to shoot wider because I can crop in later if I need to. But I don't know what you shoot, or what focal length you like to shoot a lot at, right? But I would lean towards a 25 in your case because because you can always shoot wider and crop in later. Versus if you're shooting at 45, you don't have the ability to crop out, right? If it's too tight, it's too tight. So that would be my decision in your case, is the 25. And yeah, there's also the Panasonic 25 1.7, which is, yeah, 99 bucks. That's a good deal. There's not really any downsides to using that lens on your Olympus camera, unless you're doing video on a contrast detect only sensor. So if you have like an EM10 or an EM5 Mark II or lower, if you have any of the contrast detect only systems, That lens is no good for video. But if you don't care about that, there's not I can't think of any downside to getting the Panasonic version, really. Nah, the 21.4. Like I said, if you don't have the 17 or the 25 now, that is not a bad option. And the price is about right for that lens. I mean, everything is more expensive now. I don't think we're going to see $599 lenses anymore unless it's a kit lens. Uh, Canon's coming out with some cheap small lenses though for their full frame system for like 300 bucks. Um, they're f2.8s, but they're practically pancake lenses. That's pretty attractive too, actually. I'm sure Lauren's been looking at them, right? Because you have a Canon RP. They have some very small light primes now. Okay, what else was there? There's a couple other things I've been doing. I've been trying to scan some film with this scanner that David gave me, and it works great. But when I say I've been trying, it's like I can't find all of my negatives. I don't know where they went. I had a whole bag of negatives that I had in a bag from my college days that I wanted to scan. I can't find them now. And I had them in this very room, and I can't find them now. I don't understand where they went. And I had some of the prints too from college. I had some prints. I did find one roll of negatives. I can show you those. Let me see, where are they? I did scan a couple images from my college days. Here. Um, this was at a party, but the scans came out really, really good. This was at a party at my fraternity. And that's Scott. I remember Scott. I don't remember who the girl was. And there's Fletcher. I think that was his girlfriend at the time. But Fletch, man, I think he was on his 8th year of his undergrad. Um, so he was the oldest member in our fraternity. And there's Scott. I don't remember who that girl was. Scott dated one of my best friends from high school, but that's not her. And this is Disneyland back in the 80s. That was my sister-in-law from before when I was married. But yeah, I was trying to scan these, but I lost all of the. I can't find my negatives. It's really stressing me. I don't know where they are, and I've looked high and low for them. We need a younger photo of Uncle Rob. Oh man, I just found one. It's right here. One of my old girlfriend. Back in the day. She was yeah, she was nice. Really nice girl. Let's see. There is a really old picture of me in here. I think it's this. I got a Polaroid from the early 90s. Yeah, here you go. This is me, get some light on it. This is me as a Boy Scout or Cub Scout. I can't remember how old I was, maybe 9 or 10 years old in here. But that's me. And then I think this was from the 90s. I was at a convention of some kind, but I can't. It's a little bit blurry anyway. You know, it's a Polaroid, and this is the me as a Cub Scout, and that's before my permanent teeth came in, so I might have been younger than that. This was like, yeah, those were back in the day. And let's see. This was yeah, my old girlfriend. She was thinking about modeling and stuff, so that's why I got these photos of her. Oh, let's see. In here. Oh, nothing. And then there's a bunch of I gotta scan all this crap in before they're totally gone. There's a family picture of my mom and dad and my sister. I got big hair. This must have been in the 80s. I had a lot of hair back then. Like just a big, not a mullet, but almost. Let's see, what's this? Oh, that's just my, I don't know if you guys can say Olin Mills. Remember Olin Mills? Anybody? This is me and my sister. Back in the 80s. How old was my old girlfriend? She was at the time she was 7 years younger than me. So I think those pictures are when she was 20. She was probably about 27, 25 or 20. I don't know. She was in her late 20s at the time. Because I was in my mid 30s, early 30s or mid 30s at the time. So it was a while ago, a long, long freaking time ago. Back in the day when I used to be man about town, man. But yeah, so I'm digging through, trying to find all this. I found a bunch of other stuff like those photos, but I couldn't find my negatives from college days. I found photo albums full of pictures from my college days. Oh, let me show you one or two from that. And this is what I don't understand. I found this photo album together with the negatives, but now I can't find the effing negatives. But ooh, man, there's a pile of crap in here. These are from definitely, you know, these are all, whoops. Hopefully you guys can still see me. These are just, oh my God, I got to show this to Margaret. I'm still friends with some of these people from college days. Oh, this is a good picture. Anyway, I'll scan these eventually and put them on Flickr or something. But look at that old boombox, man. There's an old boombox here with these. This was after a party. So there's little, K cups there, right? For beer. So, and this is very indicative, right? Billy Idol poster down here. This is a friend of mine, Margaret, that she'd probably get a kick out of that picture. And that was my fraternity, Delta Sigma Phi. That's me. I'm trying to find, there was a good close-up shot of me in here. This is back actually when I was shooting with my OM2S film. Yeah, Debbie is in here. This was at another party. All right, this is a good picture of me. See if I can pull it out. You can see close up. Oh, man, it's glued to this photo album. I'm probably gonna rip it trying to take it out. Yeah, I can't take it out. It's gonna tear. It's been in here so long, but there's that's me there in the bottom. That's my buddy Larry right there, that picture. College days. I'll have to scan these so you guys can see them. If I can find the negatives, I can just scan the negative and give you the original. But yeah, a lot of partying back then. But I went to University of Maryland. That's one of the buildings there. Oh my God, there's a picture from my high school prom. Well, I don't want to bore you guys with these old photos. I'm trying to see if there's anything more interesting than just me. Remember the starburst filters that you used to put on your film cameras? Party, party, party. Nothing but party, man. I used to party a lot in college. Holy crap, these are all pictures from partying. Bring back memories. But yeah, I have negatives for all these effing pictures, but I don't know where they went. Stressing me. No kidding, Lauren. Delta Sigma Pi. I was Delta Sigma Phi, not Pi. You know, another thing I found, let me show you this. Is it this? No. Yeah, this one. I need to get in touch with, I bet David Tellett has one of these. But this is a plastic case, and it's addressed to my dad when he was in San Francisco. I don't see the date. But, you know, this is something somebody mailed to my dad from Colorado. So I'm guessing maybe his sister or something mailed this to him. But inside, uh, look what's inside. A magnetic tape, like a reel-to-reel audio tape. And I'm curious what's on here, but I don't have a reel-to-reel player. I bet David Tellett has one though. But I bet this is a message from one of my aunts or uncles in Colorado back when they used this kind of tape. So probably from the 1960s. And I wonder if this is still going to play. And I also found this one that the address label got ripped off, but this had a cassette tape in it. So I need to find a cassette tape player that I can play this. I don't know what this is, but it's, you guys remember Ampex? It's an Ampex cassette tape. So when I find a cassette player, I'm gonna play this. But these were interesting finds. But yeah, I don't know. I think this may even have gone when he was in Vietnam, but I don't know. Scotch brand recording tape. So, and I was looking for some on eBay, like a tape player, but man, they're like expensive, and I don't even know if they're going to work, right? What are these? Bunch of photos here. Oh my God. Golly, my dad and mom, so young back then. Wow. Back in the day. All right. But yeah, reel-to-reel tape. That was kind of a neat find. And I found, you know, not found, but I have a whole box of 8mm video. They don't call it video, do they? 8mm film. Moving film. What do they call it? God, why am I drawing a blank? But I have 8mm, I have a whole box of it. Probably, you know, 30 or 50 rolls of 8mm video that I need to have converted somehow. So I might go buy that 8mm converter thing. It's about 400 bucks. Super 8. Yeah, I think it's Super 8 film. I have a whole box of it I need to convert. Yeah, Kevin, I don't know if there's anybody local that'll do it. I'd have to look, but I don't know. I'm going to check with my buddy Dave first. He has a lot of vintage stuff at his house. I wouldn't be surprised if he had one of these. But yeah, I got a bunch of Super 8 film down in my basement in a box that I meant to get it digitized before my dad passed away, but I never got around to it, unfortunately. But my mom is still around, so I can do it for her and myself and the family and everybody. So be sure not to mix up 8 and Super 8 in a projector. Oh, maybe it's not Super 8. I'm not sure what it is. Um, it's something. I'll figure it out. I'll take it to the camera store, and somebody there will be able to tell me what it is. Yeah, I don't want to pay. I don't want to pay per conversion, right? It might be cheaper for me to buy the machine and do it myself than to pay, $10 or $20 per 5 minute of tape. Because those things didn't last very long, right? You'd play it and it'd last only a few minutes. I forget how many minutes you got on each tape, but it wasn't much. But I bet if I look in the basement, I'll find the projector and the original recording, film camera. And that'll tell me exactly what kind of stuff it is. I'll have to go look for that. Maybe I'll do that today, but um wow. Wow, John Allen has some Leica negatives from 1934. Wow, that's awesome. Man. Okay, so I think I'll call it here. It was great talking to you guys again. I got another Friday fan photos uh live stream this Friday, so you can submit your images. I know Randy sent in 5 or 6 at a time, which is fine. But I was thinking if you can put it in as a collage, so I can just show like 4 or 5 at once, I might do that. Then you can talk about the images as a story rather than going one by one. It might be easier to see them all together like you would in a book or something, but I'll give that some thought. Um, yeah, I can get a converter machine, definitely. And Andreas has a projector from the 70s. Yeah, I'm sure it's still at my house. My mom doesn't throw away anything. I mean, her house is like wall to wall, like hoarder, borderline hoard, not borderline. She's a hoarder. She's got boxes of stuff she never opened. And never mind boxes and tons of stuff. Ugh, but I'll find it. But anyway, I'm gonna head out. Um, I will see you guys Friday on the Friday fan photo day where you guys send your images in and have a story to go with it. So look for that. Um, I have the video, the link. I have the link for the video posted already. So you can go to that video or that live stream, and in that description is the link to submit your photos. But it's great seeing everybody again. Thanks for joining me as always. Um, I will see you guys again soon.